In this video, we will walk through the new updates to the housing shelter workflow. This update will be reflected in the HMIS Live site on August 5th, 2019. Let's quickly walk through the workflow to take a look at the new changes. To begin, from my client's dashboard, I'm going to click on the intake icon on the left-hand menu panel. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to use the current client that's in the top left of my screen and click Use the Current Client. As always, ClientTrack will push us onto the basic client information page. Once we're done here, we'll click Finish in the bottom right-hand corner. Then ClientTrack will push us to the Family Members page. For the sake of this demonstration, I am not going to add any family members. Save and close when done. Next up, as usual, is the HUD Program Enrollment page. I'm going to select Emergency Shelter. As always, take special note of the project start date. Now ClientTrack has dropped us off on the Universal Data Assessment page. Once you're done filling this out, click Save in the bottom right-hand corner, and we will be taken to the Barriers page. My test client does not have a disabling condition, so I'll click Save and Close. And now we're taken to the Domestic Violence Assessment page. I'm going to select No for the sake of this example, and then Save. Finally, we're taken to the Income and Sources Non-Cash Benefits page. Now, the previous housing shelter workflow would end after we finished filling this page out, and we would then have to go to the Housing Check-in History page in order to check our client into a bed in HMIS. However, we'll see now that once we click Save and Close on the bottom right-hand corner of the Income page, the workflow is actually going to take us straight to the Shelter Check-in page. So the bed check-in section of the shelter enrollment is now a part of the housing shelter workflow. There are no longer any extra steps that you have to take after the workflow ends in order to check your client into a bed in HMIS. To continue with the workflow, we will first select the facility, room, and bed. As always, make sure to select the appropriate check-in date and don't fill out the check-out date until the client leaves your shelter. At the bottom, make sure to select the appropriate enrollment. When you're done, click Save. Now you'll see that the workflow will end and your intake will be finished. If you are doing an enrollment for a household consisting of more than one member, the workflow will drop you off on the Universal Data Assessment page for the next family member. As you can see here, ClientTrack now wants us to fill out the Universal Data Assessment for my client's child. Once you're done filling this out, click Save, and we will be brought to the Barriers page. After you filled out the Barriers page, we will finally be taken to the Shelter Check-in page. Again, this is necessary to complete to check the other family members into the shelter. After you've completed the data assessment, the barriers, and the bed check-in page for all members of the household, click Save and the workflow will end. Now let's quickly walk through the changes to the housing shelter exit enrollment workflow. To begin, we'll click on the blue action button next to the enrollment that we want to exit, and we will select Exit the Enrollment. The first page of the exit enrollment is called the enrollment exit page. This has not changed from the previous workflow. Once you're done filling out this page, click Save in the bottom right-hand corner, and ClientTrack will drop us off on the Universal Data Assessment page. Click Save when done. As usual, we will then be brought to the Barriers page, Save and Close, and now we're brought to the Income and Sources Non-Cash Benefits page. As with the initial enrollment workflow, the last page of the exit enrollment workflow is no longer the Income Assessments page. Now, after clicking Save and Close, we are brought to the client's check-in history page. You'll notice that our client has a check-in date, but not a check-out date. I want you to take note that any and all bed check-ins that the client has ever had in HMIS will appear on this page, and you should make sure to select the correct record to check the client out of the bed. To complete the bed checkout, we will click the blue action button next to the appropriate check-in and select Edit Check-in. We will now fill out the checkout date with the appropriate date and then click Save. Now we get dropped off on the check-in history page again, only this time our client's check-in record now has a checkout date. We will press Skip in the bottom right-hand corner and then Finish to complete the exit workflow. If we are completing this workflow for a household that has multiple members, after we press Skip, we will be asked if we also want to exit the other household members from the enrollment. After selecting Yes, we will be brought to the Exit Enrollment page for the next member of the household. Once you're done, click Save, and ClientTrack will drop us off on the Universal Data Assessment page, again, this time for the next member of the household. Click Save when done, and we will be taken to the Barriers page for that member of the household. After you click Save and Close, we will then be taken back to the Client Check-in History page, but again, this is for the second member of the household. We will click the blue action button and click Edit Check-in as we did for the head of household, and fill in the appropriate checkout date. Click Save, and once the checkout date appears on the Client Check-in History page, we will press Skip and the workflow will end. I do want to take note that in a household with more than 2 members, you will have to go through the Universal Data Assessment page, the Barriers page, and finally the Client Check-in History page for each member of the household. After that, the workflow will end, and we will be dropped off on the Head of Household's dashboard. On the client's dashboard, you'll now see that the number of days the client was checked into the bed appears as units under the Services section of the dashboard. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions about the changes to the workflow, please email us at hmis@thn.org.